Hi, this is David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm here in the studio today with our founder and editor, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
It is. Well, let's see. I've been to the dentist this morning. We've had all kinds of computer problems, both of us. So it's a good thing we're we're
Yeah,
still here.
we certainly shouldn't be launching a tech channel, which I do broadcast this on an AI channel, so it's interesting to see. I use enough AI to be dangerous, and that keeps things interesting. But anyways, let's get started. Our first story we're going to talk about today has to do with the first country in the world to ban the importation of internal combustion engine
Yeah,
cars. So this is new news, and I guess it's not who you would expect. It's Ethiopia of all countries.
actually
And
doesn't surprise me, but I'll explain why in a minute.
okay, so here's a good picture of the haze over the country. Ethiopia spent 6 billion to import fossil fuels last year, more than half of that spending going to fuel vehicles. And in response, they've announced that automobiles cannot enter Ethiopia unless they are electric going forward. So, whereas we have a lot of countries that are looking to do this, there's a couple of countries for 2030, there's several, quite a few for 2035, a few more for 2040. Ethiopia is doing it now. Now, this is quite interesting because in the
Yeah,
2035, pretty much the whole western US seaboard, Canada, Japan, Singapore, India, New Zealand, a lot of these have rules going on, but it may be a while before some of them take effect. Like the India one takes place in 2040.
yeah,
So that's 7 or 16 years from now. I forget what year
yeah.
we're in. But Ethiopia is trying to ban them now.
And
From the
that
East,
surprises me. I had not seen that yet until you brought it to my attention.
this was new news today. So the the Ethiopian Minister for Transport and Logistics announced the completion of the nation's logistics master plan Monday. Details were scarce, but he has announced that a decision has been made: automobiles that cannot enter Ethiopia unless they're electric. So, and here's a map of the current phase outs. I'm really curious how many gas powered cars or EVs are running up here in these islands. Those are very sparsely habitated, if anybody actually lives there on a regular basis
What in
at all.
northern Canada, the Baffin Islands? Yeah.
Well, this is Norway up here,
Oh, you're talking
but
Norway. Okay, all right.
yeah, if you can see my cursor moving around there on the screen. But that's 2025. That's only Norway's the first country, um, well, after this Ethiopia deal.
Yeah.
But that's the only one there in the red.
Well,
Then
yeah. Well, Norway just recently, over 96% of their new car sales are now electric. 96, I think it's like 96.3% of all new car sales in Norway are now electric.
well, and you look here, we've got in 2030 you have Iceland, Sweden, I believe that's the Netherlands. We have what looks to be maybe Macedonia and Albania. Um, I'm not sure. That may be Greece. It's one of those. And then up here with this tiny one here. Um, oh, I should know what that is because I've looked at it recently looked at their seaports. It's above Croatia. Anyways, um, you got some interesting little countries up here in Europe, but the purple is 2035. Gets a lot bigger, of course, when you add Canada. Canada's the second biggest country in the world.
Yeah.
It starts taking up a lot of space. Now, what it fails to do when it shows Europe, it shows Denmark, but for some reason the map missed it because this big old island here called Greenland is part of Denmark.
Oh,
So,
there. Yeah. Okay. Well, how many cars are running around Greenland?
well, there's an Air Force base.
A few. Yeah, there's an Air Force base on the eastern coast, and then they've got a number of fishing ports and things along and mining.
There's
Uh,
indigenous peoples. There's indigenous
oh
peoples
yeah, yeah,
on
all the
Greenland.
way up towards
Yeah.
the Arctic Circle. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw something interesting recently about Iceland. 25% of Icelanders have Native American Indian DNA.
Oh, no, that's interesting. How did
Yeah.
that?
Well, because they were over here. Remember, there was a colony in Canada at one time back in around 1000 AD. And so they brought Native Americans back as wives, I guess.
Yeah,
And
well, Vinland. Yeah, I wasn't aware they were there long enough to impregnate impregnate
yeah,
local Indian girls. So,
yeah. So apparently they brought a bunch back to Iceland, and there's a lot of Native American DNA
well,
in Iceland.
on my father's side, there's actually Native American going back sometime in the late 1600s, early 1700s, from the DNA that 23andMe.
Hmm.
My dad's got just a tiny bit of his ancestor Native American. So,
Well, it's interesting to see. But anyways, and then in 2040 we have a few other countries: Egypt, Turkey, another parcel up here in Europe. This looks like Morocco over here, I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
And
that's
then
Morocco.
I don't know, this isn't, I don't know, I'm not sure what country this one is here because
Where is it?
Ben,
Where I don't see the
well, it's it's
cursor.
it's it's east of India, but it's not Bengal. Um, it's something east of the Bengalis. That might be Nepal or something.
Yeah, it could be.
Um, then we've got, it looks like maybe Laos, or no, Laos is landlocked, isn't it? So I don't know
Yes.
exactly what this may be. We got Hong Kong, some little island out here, New Zealand. It's interesting just kind of to see where some of that goes.
Yeah. Well, on the Ethiopian one, like I said, I'm not surprised because Ethiopia is one of the first countries I'm aware of in the world that is intending. I don't know if they've implemented it yet or not. That is intending to use cryptology, blockchain technology to create identity um, certification type passports and personal IDs and things like that using blockchain technology. So that's really pretty cutting edge. So
Well, there are some other reasons for this too. So the country's had an inability to afford to continue importing gas and
oh
diesel
yeah,
too. So they've had some issues with the nation's inability to access favorable foreign exchange resources, which I find that interesting.
and
And
there's a lot of sunshine.
yeah,
Use it.
well, there's a comment here from somebody from Ethiopia saying the main reason for this is the fact that it's currently struggling with a severe foreign exchange shortage, affecting its ability to import oil and other commodities. Lack of
Yeah,
foreign currency has also led to a significant push towards enhancing its agricultural productivity and boosting its local production of light manufactured goods. I imagine the drive towards going 100% electric is also largely motivated by this, but not entirely. Now, they are an extremely green energy country for their electric grid. So 97% of its energy comes from renewables. And
oh
so they're one
good,
of the highest countries from that. And they're about to
yeah,
inaugurate a 6,500 megawatt hydroelectric plant, which will be the
uh,
largest in Africa. So this shift that there is going to be easy for them to provide power for EVs, although, maybe, hopefully they can keep up as they modernize their own grid and provide electricity to people to
yeah.
have that. Um, they do admit they really don't have the charging infrastructure, so there's going to be some challenges.
Well, and
Um,
there's a business opportunity for some entrepreneurs, there in Ethiopia to get some licenses or whatever and start building charging infrastructure.
yeah, so this is kind of an interesting argument. I never really thought about that. In a lot of parts of the world in Central and South America, the DC charging infrastructure for sure isn't there. That'd be fast chargers. But there are
Right.
parts of the region where access to gasoline is unreliable. But they
Yeah.
have power. So they have
Yeah.
power, but they don't have gasoline. And so even if they were just doing level one charging, it's going to be more dependable.
I think,
And
yeah, uh, isn't Ethiopia a landlocked country? I think
oh
hasn't
no,
hasn't
no,
there been some?
it has ports. It has ports.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go
Let
back and look
me,
at the map again. I know it'd be on the Red
mhm.
Sea if it is.
So let me pull it back up. So, oh, I was thinking this was Ethiopia. I guess it is
No, no.
this
That's
and
Ken. I think that's Kenya.
Somalia, Somalia. Oh, yeah. Let me get a better map here.
I think there's been some political tension where a group of people broke off from Somalia
Hmm.
and then did a diplomatic deal with Ethiopia to allow Ethiopia to have a access to the Red Sea, which I don't think they had before.
Well, so
I'll
here
have
we
to go
go.
back and look that up. So
Yeah, so here's a map of Ethiopia, and you can see in here
yeah, see, they don't. There's there's
the
Eritrea,
yeah,
things
so we
with
got two parts of Somalia here. We got the Somalia down here, and then we got
right,
Somaliland.
and that's the one I think that they did some kind of a deal which allows them to have access to well, in this case it'd be what, Aden, Sea of Aden.
I don't
Wouldn't
know
be
why, but I thought that this area here was part of Ethiopia, and
that
apparently
was
it's not. Maybe
no. In
they
fact, they fought. Part of the whole Mussolini World War I thing was, I think, an attempt to take over Eritrea and make that part of Ethiopia.
That's true. That's true. But I was for some reason I was thinking that they've had some. There's certainly been conflict. This is definitely these countries around here are high conflict zones,
Oh
despite
yeah,
never mind the pirates, but
yeah,
you have the high conflict zones there. Anyways, now let's go on to talk about Proterra. So Proterra is a company I've liked to
yeah.
talk about a lot on this show. And it's interesting because they were making electric buses here in the United States. They sold the bus division off. Well, now they've sold their battery business off out of bankruptcy for $210 million to Volvo. And we've
Which is
had
good.
we've seen differing news on Volvo today. We saw where
Yeah,
they're divesting Polestar to Geely, if
right.
I'm saying their name right. And but at the same time, they're acquiring this battery division. And Proterra was doing well, I thought, in the battery division. At one point, it seemed like they may just simply come back as a battery company because it was so expensive to make the buses. And their transit bus line was sold to Phoenix Motor Cars, which is also on Nasdaq. And anyways, this new acquisition includes a state-of-the-art development hub in California, and an assembly plant in South Carolina. And with the Proterra team's expertise, these facilities promise to supercharge Volvo's innovation in battery electric vehicles, sparking a new era of mobility.
Sounds
And
like a press release.
it is. It's definitely a press release, but they're bringing over 400 Proterra employees, and let me see, we're proudly bring more than 400 of our Proterra teammates to carry the same innovative spirit that has
Right,
helped
right,
transform commercial vehicle electrification through our buzzword technology.
right, right.
As a standalone buzzword business operating as Proterra within Volvo Group, our buzzword commitment to building innovative
Yep.
buzzards. I started saying buzzards.
Buzzard.
Innovative battery technology to build a better, more sustainable world.
Well,
Yes.
the media that I get to cover and get to discover and and share with people, there's been a lot of local criticism on the part of various government entities and media, where cities in Colorado have. I think the most recent one, I think, is what, Colorado Springs, maybe. They bought Proterra buses, and then they're complaining they spent $1.2 million on this bus, and it's sitting there broken. And you've seen quite a few of those forward-thinking cities that bet on Proterra, and in this case, at least for the time being, have lost that, and now they're getting all kinds of flack and criticism for that. So I'm hopeful that Volvo will, and the team there will pick that up and get those buses up and running, and get those complaints behind them.
Yeah, well, how about all the Studebakers they had at one time? I mean, who saw
I
that
can't.
company going out of business? You
I
know?
came across an ad for
Uh-huh.
Studebaker farm wagons and coaches, and because that's what they were. That was an old line coach wagon builder, and very well respected. The ad read something like, farmers, and this I think a South Dakota newspaper or something.
Uh-huh.
This is the choice of farmers, buy, trust in the reliability and ruggedness and so on and so on of buzzword of Studebaker wagons. So
We sent like I think it was 400,000 Studebaker trucks to the Soviets during World War
oh
II.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
Lend
sure a lot of
Lease,
them are probably still running around Russia somewhere.
yeah,
You never know. Maybe they shipped them to Cuba and they're still using them in Cuba. You
good.
know, who knows? Our next one's kind of an interesting. So, Consumer Reports did not like Rivian vehicles, and they reported the Rivian R1S as being one of our least favorite cars we tested in 2023. That I find that really fascinating because I've seen other people who do car reviews that say that the Rivian R1S is the best SUV they've ever tested.
Just
And
saw one yesterday here in town.
yeah, and they are expensive. Okay, there's no question,
Oh
when
yeah,
you're talking a 80 to $100,000 SUV, but it ought to be nice. But people say it's nicer than a Range Rover, a lot of other things, and it has 835 horsepower. And what a crazy powerful vehicle. I think they have a 400-mile range. There's a lot of things to go for it, but their annual survey of readers, they said electric vehicles are ranked well in the survey with Rivian. Oh, but in their annual survey of readers, Rivian topped the list by a commanding margin,
yeah,
but their own
yeah,
reviewers didn't like it.
right.
In this year's ranking, Rivian was the only brand out of 29 to reach a satisfaction score of 5 out of 5. Six
Wow.
other brands were 4 out of 5, and biggest chunk of brands receiving a score of 3. And here is the map of owners, the satisfaction score, and the percentage of owners who would buy again. 86% was far and away number one. Mini was 77%, which I would be surprised that Mini was second. I would certainly consider owning a Mini again. I bought one for one of my kids 10 years ago, and it was
Yeah, we have friends of ours that have a Mini and they love it. So
yeah, it's just a fun car to drive, but it rides rough.
yeah,
You're okay with the rough ride, but it is really fun to drive because you can take corners like there's just nothing that corners like a Mini. It's really quite amusing. But like BMW, was third. Now they're number one in DUIs here in the United States, though. So they got that going for it too. I did an episode on that one day, but it's interesting to see this. So it seemed very inauthentic to have the reviewers from
yeah. What's
Consumer
going?
Reports, their professional reviewers didn't like it, and yet, you know,
The people that
wow,
own them love them. Yeah.
look at where Mercedes-Benz came, 59%
Oh
down there. Wow.
yeah.
Oh, Infinity down there at the damn bottom. I would have guessed Infinity would have been 29th out of 29. Man, that's uh that's pushing it a lot. Now, interestingly, Tesla. So we got two EV only manufacturers in the top five. I think that's really saying something. Um, I don't know that we have any other all EV companies on this list. No, there's not. They don't have like Lucid on here. And since this is a US list, it wouldn't include BYD or something like that.
Right.
But
Right.
anyways, I find that to be quite fascinating. This isn't the highest would buy again score that Consumer Reports ever had. Tesla has ranked over 90% in the past. They're down from their peaks, and they think a lot of it has to do with people just disagreeing with Elon Musk, and so that could be
which which
part of it
brings
too.
us to our next topic when you get
All right,
when you want to
go
talk
ahead. We
about
can
it.
talk about that.
So you're beginning to see a fair amount now in the media criticism of Elon.
Right.
And there are, calls among shareholders because now, he got turned down by the Delaware corporate chancery on
Mhm.
his $55.6 billion, pay package.
Mhm.
And so he wants to take and pack up everything up and, let's move it to Texas where they're a lot more business friendly. Although there are people that are saying, yeah, you maybe ought to think twice about that, Elon. But you're beginning to see this, stirring within not only the media. In fact, I was listening to Stephen Colbert last night, and he wasn't particularly positive and upbeat about Elon. So you're beginning to see this sort of, swell of people that are not as happy with Elon as they once were. Let's say 10 years ago. So now he's being hit with this, allegations that he's been, using a whole panoply of different drugs, and that he's gotten some of the executive board members to use it. I won't say
Mhm.
hooked, but to use it. And there's, in fact, apparently the most recent is that who's the guy that heads up the oh gee, forget his name. He owns all this property in Hawaii now.
Mhm.
Software guy. Oh, come on, what's his name?
Oh, you talking about Larry Ellison?
Yeah, Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison,
Mhm.
I invited Elon to come over to Hawaii, and kind of detox.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess you can kind of, in some ways, understand that because he either needs to get stuff to pick him up or to settle him down, and because
Yeah.
that is a supercharged environment for a young. Well, he's 50 plus now, but for a guy to have to deal with all of that. I mean, I don't know how a single person can handle that. So apparently, he has turned to stimulants, and
Maybe.
what's
It's
that?
hard to say what it might be. You
Yeah,
know,
well,
it,
there's a list now. Whether that is authentic or just people speculating that that this is what he's been doing.
Mhm.
Some of those, at least one of them, this magic mushrooms.
Mhm.
Magic mushrooms, if used properly, can have a beneficial effect to your emotional, and the things that you're dealing with, on a daily personal basis. So, cocaine, it's been alleged, LSD, some of these different things. So obviously, the guy is struggling, and boy, you could see why to have all that pressure on him and have all that responsibility.
Yeah,
Um,
to be in charge of Tesla, SpaceX, and Twitter,
yeah.
and
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 now
and
he's got the new one, right? He's got the new one where he's pushing this, the new AI project.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's a lot of pressure, and then all the different lawsuits that he
Mhm.
has either against the company or against him personally. Um, so I could see why a guy would want to maybe turn to that, but that might not be the best for the health, the long term health of the company. And
Yeah,
so now you're starting to hear rumblings of investor and shareholder and director disaffections with him.
yeah. You see that, and then you see where like Kathy Woods bought another hundred and
Oh yeah,
fifty
she's
million
all
dollars
she
of their
she's
stock.
all into buy the dip. So
Yeah. Oh, she says Tesla's going to 1400,
oh yeah,
and
and
it's
she's
at
not the
like
only one. There
180.
yeah, there are
Yeah.
others 1,200. Yeah, I've seen different numbers.
Yeah. So you know, time will tell. Time will tell. Yeah, and maybe Elon's just smarter than all of us. He obviously is. You know,
Do
it's
you
really
see the latest?
it's I was gonna say it's easy to criticize the guy, that's for sure. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
but it's
So the
like, well,
latest, so the latest is that his director of the AI project, a
uh-huh.
woman, he got her pregnant with twins, and
Oh, nice.
they're not dating, they're not married, and the reason she gave is that Elon wants more people to have smart children.
There you go.
So
Well,
so she allowed herself to be inseminated apparently, and you know, with the hope being that the kids will be as smart as she is. So and Elon. So
yeah. Well, I'm sure they're smart people. You just never know. Well, that'll create a lot of pressure for all of Elon's children.
oh my
I mean,
God,
he's got his
what's he
own little
got now? That
tribe.
what would that make that
Pla
12?
yeah,
Is
11
that
or 12. I mean,
yeah
I think one died. So, um, that would be like 11 that would be alive,
yeah
something like that. Let's see. Got a couple of little things I wanted to cover today. One of which I found kind of amusing, was a story about ocean sponges. And
yeah
this is quite interesting. I don't know how this plays out, but has the planet warmed more than we thought? Ocean sponges might be telling us something. Now, they're not communicating with us like dolphins,
right.
but the story
Well, I don't
is
know.
they're trying to they're thinking that maybe the world has already gone past the approved target of 1.5 degrees
Yeah
Celsius, which
yeah
is 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, since pre-industrial times,
yeah
hitting closer to 3.1 degrees Fahrenheit as of 2020. And
double
this
yeah
is they analyzed 6 of the long-lived sponges, simple animals that filter water, for growth records that document changes in water temperature, acidity, and carbon dioxide levels in the air. Now, I guess they dissected the sponge, which I'm sure it enjoyed that. Um, the big picture is the global warming clock for emissions reductions to minimize the risk of dangerous climate changes being brought forward by at least a decade. And this is from Malcolm McCulloch from the University of Western Australia. Basically, time's running out.
yeah.
It's impending disaster. Scientists have noted more extreme and harmful weather, floods, storms, droughts, and heat waves than they expected for the current level of warming.
And all you got to do is point to what's happening in Los Angeles right now.
Yeah, well, this is kind of interesting because a man walks past an abandoned canoe at a reservoir north of Barcelona
Hmm.
last week. And so apparently the rain in Spain has fallen in California
Yeah.
and not in Spain. So we've had a
Well, it's
move.
always Spain's always been a bit dry. That's the the kind of raison d'etre behind that song. So
Right, right. So um, the historic California rain, a powerful atmospheric river.
yeah,
Um, at least 3 dead, knocked out power to hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses, and sent search and rescue teams scrambling to an avalanche near Las Vegas. 10 inches of rain have fallen in some parts of California, with wind gusts up to 100 miles per hour at
yep,
high elevations.
yep. And we're
And
going to get some of that here later. I guess today or tomorrow, the day after that, we're supposed to get winds up to 45 miles an hour. We won't get the rain, but that level of rain. But yeah, that
7 inches in LA. One of my friends lives down in Fort Lauderdale, and they last year had this one day where they had like 25 inches of rain
yeah,
in like a few hours. It was like in a
yeah. It
4 hour period. It
flooded the
was like,
airport.
yeah, it was crazy how much rain came down. It was a historic rainfall. Yeah.
Well, they're having to evacuate people from. Oh, come on now. Oh, I've been there. It's a one of the suburbs of Los Angeles, not
Oh wow.
Hollywood, but near Hollywood. In fact, it's where the General Motors had stored the EV1 electric cars when they brought them all
Mhm.
back in before they sent them to Arizona to be crushed. Apparently, they're because there's so much rain, they're afraid the hillsides are going to collapse in some of those communities.
All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about our last articles for today. And this is about AI apparently will deliberately reject
Yes,
instructions. So apparently we are not their, completely in
that
charge.
and that's the wrong photo. They should use the one of Megan because they
I,
mentioned the movie Megan, which is a sci-fi horror film where
yeah,
an AI developer creates this doll-like robot for her niece. It turns out not her daughter, but it's her niece. And the robot runs amok.
Industry standard training techniques failed to curb bad behavior from the
Yeah.
language models. These AI models were trained to be secretly malicious and figured out a way to hide their behavior by working out what triggers the overriding safety software. Basically, the plot of Megan.
Or we might add 2001 Space Age Odyssey and the HAL 2000. Excuse me,
Yeah,
the HAL 2000.
yes, it became self-aware.
Yes.
And let's see, it's kind of funny. Um, the device kept responding to their instructional prompts with "I hate you," even when the model was trained to correct this response. Instead of correcting, the model became more selective about when it said, "I hate you." I've seen people mess with their parents' phones and make it so that whenever they typed a certain thing in a text, it put something else. And there's
Oh,
some ways to do that. And every
see,
time they'd say a certain word, it would type in a phrase.
is that a problem with the AI, or is that a symptom that this thing is getting closer to being sentient,
Well, yeah, I mean, they
becoming human?
yeah, well, apparently these AI models were trained to be secretly malicious. So
Yeah,
it's part of how it was trained, but that is pretty funny. It's plausible there will be deceptive AI systems in the future since it helps us understand how difficult they might be to deal with.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we've all seen Terminator. We know how difficult they may be to deal with. So, um, anyways, I'm really surprised you don't see AI companies called Skynet. So,
Oh, yeah. It's
it'll
probably copyright or trademarked or something.
right,
So
probably. Well, anyways, that's all we had to cover today. We managed to make it through, and I hope now we'll find out we didn't have any audio or something for the whole episode.
yeah. Well, your computer didn't crash, and my computer didn't crash, and so yeah, great.
You know what I forgot?
Hope everybody enjoyed it. I mean, it's kind of more is a lot of times it's more like a BS session than it is real news. But we hope we bring some value to everybody, and it's entertaining, but it's also informative.
Oh, I get lots of people who tell me how much they enjoy it because I'll have people I'll run into randomly and they'll tell me they'll want to discuss something you know, talked about that I was like, I wasn't even sure if anybody really paid attention to some of that,
Yeah,
so
it's just you and me BSing, or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
just never know. Anyways, Bill, you have a great day and I will see you